if you marry that conscious visualization with that strong feeling of gratitude, you're impregnating the subconscious mind. When you look into some of the teachings of an individual like Neville Goddard, you understand that he had happened upon some of the most profound occult teachings of our lifetime, and essentially the keys to reality creation itself. And I thought I would take the time this evening to give you a little bit of my insights after looking in depth into some of Neville's most profound teachings. So the first one that really comes to mind is his concept of feeling is the secret. Now, in order for you to have more jurisdiction over the things that you bring into reality, you first have to marry them with a feeling. You see, one of the key problems people have with the law of attraction, law of manifestation, and all this new age kind of bullshit is that they think it's enough to just have the thought, have the concept, have the idea. And by thinking and orientating themselves around these ideas of Ferraris and Lexuses and mansions and homes in Malibu, that some way or another they will bring these things into their reality. And this is a very trite and a very naive way of looking at how to bring these things into our world. It slightly touches upon the key concept of how we can reorientate our nervous system around those things, but there is a little bit more practice here. And the deep esoteric secret is how to marry it with your feelings, or the yin, the feminine, the chaos, the nurturing and creative capacity of our psyche. So the first thing is visualization. Now, visualization is is the first stepping stone to how you would like your reality to be structured. So the first thing is that you have to create a scenario inside your mind from the first person that whatever you would like to achieve is already in the present. So this might look like to you, let's take a concept such as bringing a particular woman or man into your life. Let's go with women, as this is masculine theory after all. So you would create a scene that implies that you have the woman of your dreams. So it might be you coming in from a hard day's work of laboring on the construction field or something like that, and you're walking into your home. You feel your hands on the doorknob, you open the door, and you can smell some lovely steak being cooked by somebody in your kitchen. You walk into the kitchen, and then you can see your partner, your wife, your girlfriend, whatever scenario you would like, working away, cooking your dinner. Perhaps she's dressed in a particular way. How tall is she? What is her body figure like? What are her facial features like? What does she say to you when you come into the door? And that, in that kind of very brief description is a very surface level visualization. What happens is you have to keep repeating that scenario and add more visual textures to it, sensory textures to it. So it might be that you are adding more kinesthetic sensations. So what can you feel with your hands, with your feet? Can you feel the wood on the table as your hands sit down to rest, or the cutlery in your hand? Or can you feel the skin of your partner? And then you might add smell. What can you smell? What can you see? What can you taste? What can you hear? You get the picture. Till the scenario becomes so vivid that your nervous system can no longer distinguish between reality and the imagined event. See, this is the key lesson to learn when you're doing this. This actually has a scientific backing, and that is, scientists know without a shadow of a doubt that the nervous system can't tell the difference between an imagined event and an event that's happening to you in real time. And if you look at great athletes, they know this like it's, a fact. Well, it is a fact. If you watch interviews with, Conor McGregor or any other, high-level athlete, they'll tell you that some of their, crowning moments in their particular sport they'd already experienced multiple times. And it's just a question of rehearsing that event until your nervous system gets so used to it that it just deems it as fact. And then it just becomes a matter of time before reality organizes its way like that. Now, this is just the first step. And just to give you a bit of larger context to what scenario you should be in when you are practicing this, you want to take advantages of the latter parts of the day, just before you go to bed. Go to bed maybe half an hour earlier, because you start to enter into theta brainwaves, and you're very, very impressionable when you're in theta. So how you do this is you might sit on a comfortable chair or in a meditative pillow or a meditative position, and you would do this visualization. Okay, we've already gone through the visualization. Again, a scenario that implies that you already have the thing that you want. It has to imply it. If you're visualizing from a perspective of getting or going to get, you're always going to reaffirm a reality where you're not quite there yet. And then to marry this conscious part of your creation, which is your, creative mind, you have to marry it with the feeling, which is your intuition, which is your feminine, which is subconscious, which is the creative element of the world in itself. And the way you do this is that with those visualizations, after you've got them in a succinct loop, you want to start to add feeling to it. What are the feelings that you would experience if the visualization that you're rehearsing was actually true? And typically the most emotions to highlight are gratitude, and gratitude is the first and the most important one. Gratitude, and then also some of those other higher quality emotions which may bring that visualization with more depth and more substance. It might be joy. You might find yourself whispering to yourself, I'm so glad that I have this particular woman in my life. I'm so grateful. You might find yourself experiencing like a comedic reaction. You might start laughing at yourself about how funny that you've already rehearsed a scenario is, and you've already experienced this, and laughed to yourself about how powerful this practice actually is. And I've mentioned many times before about how I've had these deja vu moments of doing my visualizations and them coming into my reality 3 days later. Now, the most common question to that is, going for the most ostentatious things to bring into your reality. Oh, I want $1 million into my bank account next week. I want to get the Lambo. I want to get on a cruise, my own private boat, whatever the fuck you want to do. And the reason why these things typically work, especially for beginners, is because they do these visualizations with an element of fear that these things won't actually come into fruition, and that this visualization, new agey bullshit just doesn't work. And if your thoughts and your feelings are colored with fear, then you almost break that contract with that creation that you're trying to bring into reality. So that's why I always say, start off with something small, start off with something simple. When you're doing these visualizations and you wake up in the next morning, you should have no feeling to go and do it again. That will be the last thing on your mind. You wake up with a lot of energy, a lot of motivation, and you'll go about your day, and the last thing you'll think about is that visualization you did the previous night. And this is exactly the kind of state that you want to get into. Neville calls this living at the end. Living at the end. Because when you're living at the end, when you're living from the perspective of whatever reality that we would like to come in, the last thing on your mind, again, is, did it work? Did it work right? How do I know it's working? You just go about your daily experience with that certainty, with that, that assured feeling that you already have these things. So it's a delicate balancing act that you have to play with yourself. It's almost, I mean, some of the ways you can describe it is just complete and utter delusion, but not a delusion in the negative context. It's you've conformed yourself to a new identity, a new paradigm. It all starts with the stories that you're telling yourself every day. If you wake up every morning, you start telling yourself the same old story about how you're terrible with women, that you'll be single forever, that you can never attract anyone that you would like into your life, that story is just going to repeat itself until your bitter demise. But if you marry that conscious visualization with that strong feeling of gratitude, you're impregnating the subconscious mind. And then if you do this right, you'll wake up with that joy, with that feeling of abundance, with that motivation, with that energy, with that zeal for life. And the last thing you'll think about is trying to repeat this practice. And then sometime soon, depending on how much energy you have, sexual energy is a key component to this. I'll perhaps do another video on this. You'll get that deja vu moment, like this has happened before, and you'll start laughing to yourself when that reality actually shows itself in 3D physical form. So, gentlemen, I hope this was an entertaining video, an enlightening video, and gives you some practical tools to start creating and poking and prodding and experimenting with reality. And, you know, if you're on the cynical side, I was too. I'm a scientist by trade. But let's perhaps create a little bit more scientific curiosity about the things that we can't yet understand. And what have you got left to lose? So, if you subscribe to anything which I said, you can subscribe to me, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Take care.